So today I want to introduce you to the anatomy of block planes. Block planes come in a number of different varieties. The ones I tend to use most are these three. This is a Stanley 102 block plane. It's a very simple design. It has a fixed mouth. It's made up of the body, spin wheel on a lever cap, and the blade. The blade sits bevel up. There's a machined ramp on the body on which the front of the blade slides. There's a pin across the body under which the lever cap sits and pivots, and then the spin wheel is just spun clockwise to tighten the assembly together and hold the blade firmly in the plane. Adjustment is a matter of loosening the spin wheel a bit and moving the blade, and those adjustments can be really rather coarse. What I like to do if I'm trying to make fine adjustments with this plane is to use the brass end of the adjustment screwdriver I have, just to make little tapping motions on the blade, and I can make very fine adjustments like that. This next plane I don't tend to use too much. It's the Stanley 220. Again, it's a bevel up block plane. Its lever cap works slightly differently. There is a lever here which is a quarter turn to reduce the tension, and then that can be removed, as can the blade. Big difference from the 102 that I just showed you is that we have an advancement mechanism here for the blade, and the blade has some little slots cut out at the back there which sit on a little pin here, so we can wind the blade in and out. Otherwise it's pretty much the same. It's a fixed mouth plane, slope for the front of the blade to slide down, place it in like that, locate one of the slots on the pin for the adjustment mechanism, put the cap on, and just push the lever around and it's all tightened up. Advance and retract the blade with the knurled knob at the back. There's no lateral adjustment on this plane, and so once again, to do that I use a tapping method, and I just slightly loosen off the cap and tap the iron until I've got it exactly where I want it and tighten down. I now move on to the lower angle block plane. These are about 12.5 degrees, and they also have an adjustable mouth. I'll show you that in a minute. The cap on this one, and this is by record actually, the cap is held on by a brass screw which puts the tension on the blade. So we release that, we can take the cap off and the blade comes out. This is a replacement hot blade that I've put in here. Again, the adjustment for moving the blade in and out with a knurled knob on there. The slope for the blade to rest on. But the difference here is the sole of the plane has an inset plate here, and by moving the lever on the front we can close down the mouth for very fine shavings and good support, or we can open it up if we wish to take bigger shavings, maybe if we're putting chamfers on some work. So the face of the blade rests down on the ramp, engage one of the slots with the depth mechanism, cap on, and tighten that up. Once again, there's no lateral adjustment here. With it slightly loose, we can move it with our fingers or tap it and then tighten down. The final plane I have here is by Lie Nielsen. We have the adjustment mechanism for the mouth on the front, with plenty of range in there. We have the depth adjustment at the back. The lever cap on this one is a spin wheel. If we undo that, we can lift it out and remove the blade. And the blade in here again has a slot in the back for adjustment, but in this case just the one, and the adjustment on the Lie Nielsen has a lot more travel in it to allow for the use of the whole blade. So reassemble that by putting the blade back in on its slope, engaging with the adjustment mechanism, on with the cap, and do up the spin wheel. And once again, there's no lateral adjustment on this one, so it's a bit of manual and then a bit of tapping, tighten up the spin cap. In use, the adjustments on the 102 would be to find a flat wooden surface, place it on, loosen the blade, advance it till it touches that surface, tighten down with the spin wheel, that's not cutting at all, so very slightly loosen on the spin wheel, tap the back of the blade, tighten up again, and now we're starting to take a little bit of shaving. Let's make a couple of adjustments. And we can get a good shaving. If we move on to the 220, where we've got depth adjustment on the plane, it's a lot easier to set up and we can set for an exact shaving just by turning the knob. If we're planing a piece of wood which is giving tear out, then the final two block planes with their adjustable mouth really come into their own. We first set for the depth of cut, and that looks fine. We can now close up the mouth fairly tight onto the blade. That will give us much more support. And we're able to take a reasonable thickness shaving without very much tear out at all. And it's exactly the same with the Lie Nielsen. I can see here that the lateral adjustment is out. We're taking shavings from one side and not from the other. So with a gentle tap we can make little adjustments. We can get very fine, full width shavings. Hope you found this useful. I'll be doing more on different planes as time goes by.